Have you ever looked at the world or even your own life and thought, this doesn't make sense? Like, this doesn't add up. Like, you read your Bible in the morning and you're like, you know what? Feeling good, feeling inspired, feeling encouraged. God, you're good. God, you're in control. Today's going to be a good day. And then you get to lunch and you're like, what the heck is going on? God, do you have any idea what you're doing? Like, you know what you believe about God, that he's good, he's just, he's in control. But then you look around at your life and what you know doesn't always seem to add up with what you're experiencing. And this can be personal. Like, things in your own life don't make sense. Prayers go unanswered, situations, they feel out of control, moments where you're trying to do that very thing, where you're trying to reconcile what you believe with what you're going through. And that tension between what you know, what is true about God, and what you see going on around you in the world, that's exactly where Habakkuk is standing where we're going to be today. He's standing in the middle of a world that to him just doesn't add up. Like, things just aren't making sense. And so if you've been tracking with us, you know that Habakkuk is not this neat, polished book. It's raw. Like, Habakkuk is just like letting God, like, he's just vulnerable. He's open. God, I don't know what you're doing. And so Habakkuk, he looks around because he sees violence, he sees corruption, he sees injustice, he sees all these things going on. He's like, God, what are you doing? How long is this going to last? Like, do you even see this? And God answers, but God doesn't answer as how he hopes. He says, I'm about to do something about it, but you're not going to like it. And so now Habakkuk has another problem. It's not that God is silent, but God, why are you going to solve these problems that way? Because what God is going to do is he's going to raise up this wicked nation, Babylon, and he's going to use them as essentially a tool to discipline his own people. And so then we get to chapter 2, which is God's response. And the first few verses Toby covered last week, and basically what God says in that is, I've got this. You need to be patient. You're not going to understand everything, but trust me. And then today we're going to start in verse 6, and we get what was referred to as the 5 woes, or depending on your translation, it might say oracles, but these are 5 declarations of judgment. But this isn't just about Babylon. This is now God is answering Habakkuk and says, this is what's going to happen to these people. But this isn't just about them. This is for every culture, every system, like every heart that builds its life apart from God, including our very own. And before we read the first woe, like, you need to understand what that word is. Like, there's weight to it. This isn't like, whoa, bummer. Like, this isn't just soft and casual, like Eeyore theology, right? There's heavy weight to this. This is the kind of word that you would use like at a funeral or as a warning to get somebody to stop. That's headed towards like utter destruction and disaster. The Hebrew word is hoi, and that's what it means. It means to stop, to pull back. There's an urgency and a heavy weight to it. And so when you hear the word woe, it's W-O-E, don't just think anger alone, but hear like God's voice. This is a holy warning. Like, stop and turn before it's too late. So God is looking at Babylon, and really he's looking at anyone who lives like this, and he's saying, I see it, I see all of it, and I'm not just going to let it stand. I'm going to do something about it. So in these woes, God is pulling back the curtain. And what he's going to expose is what looks like success and power and control and authority and influence and all this, what all that looks like on the outside. When I pull this curtain back, you're going to see that it's empty and it's going to be dealt with. And underneath it all, there's a choice. That you can build your life your way, or you can build a life by faith. Which brings us to the first part, or the first note that I want you to see today. And that's what you worship determines how you build your life. We're going to see this clearly today, that you don't just make decisions, but you build your life ultimately around what you put your trust in. So the first woe that we're going to see is in verses 6 to 8. And what this is this is a warning about greedy gain. In Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 6, if you look down, he says, won't all of those who take up a taunt against him with mockery and riddles about him, they will say, woe to him who amasses what is not his, how much longer? And so what God is saying here is that Babylon didn't just grow. Like they didn't just build businesses and economic systems and then they experienced growth, but they were built by exploitation. They took what didn't belong to them. They overpowered, they conquered, they stole, they took. It was built on their strength. And God looks at that and he essentially says, how long do you think that's going to last? Like all you did was take what wasn't yours. Because here's what Babylon believed, and this is key, was that if we can just get enough, if we can just get more, we'll build our kingdom, and then we'll be secure. Like more land, more wealth, more control. And God says, like building like that, that's a house of cards. Because everything that you've taken, it's going to be taken from you. And so let's bring that into our world. Like, we don't say, I want to exploit people. We just say things like, I want to get ahead. But somehow, just get ahead always seems to mean a little more than we currently have. I just need a little more. I just want to provide. I just want to be comfortable. But underneath all of that is that word. It's just more. More money, more control, more resources, more security, and we call that responsibility or ambition or wisdom, but at the core is that same thing, that if I can just get more, I'll be okay. And we already know how that plays out. We already know that this doesn't work because enough never seems to come. Like nobody in this room has probably said, I've arrived financially. I don't need any more. Because what happens is more, it's never enough. It's a moving target. You accomplish one thing, but then the line just moves. And so greed isn't about just accumulating. It's about believing a lie, that my life will be full, my life will be satisfactory to me when I have more. And that sounds reasonable. It even sounds wise, but it runs straight against the gospel because the gospel says your life is not found in what you can accumulate. Your life is found in what Christ offers you. Your life is found in what Jesus has already accomplished. Because greed is like drinking salt water. Like you take one little sip, and for a moment, like it feels like relief. But the more you drink it, the thirstier you get, and eventually it just drains you, and it's stealing your life. That's what greed does. It reshapes you. Like the more that you feel like you need, you become more guarded, you become more anxious, more discontented, more protective. And God is saying to Babylon, to the people here, and he's saying to us, that if you build your life on more, you will never rest. Which brings us to the second thing that I want you to see, is that building your life on more, it will never actually satisfy you. Here's what God is showing us, is that you can build your whole life chasing more and still come up empty because you were never meant to carry the weight of your own security. Like you were never meant to carry the weight of securing your own life and holding everything together. Which exposes some questions in us, and that's, what are you trusting in your life that makes you feel secure? Like, is it your income? Is it your lifestyle? Is it your family stability? Your ability to control outcomes? Or is it God? Because you can say God is in control, but then live like everything depends on you. But the gospel steps in and says, you don't have to build your life that way. You don't have to build your life by taking and hoarding and accumulating, because Jesus offers you everything that you need. You don't have to chase more because you already have what matters most. So if this first woe is about getting more, then what we're going to see is the second one is about what we do with what we get. Because what we do with what we get also matters. We don't just accumulate for accumulation's sake. We accumulate because we want to feel safe, right? We don't just want more money. We want what money offers. Freedom, control, security. Like, we don't just want more resources. We want distance from risk and instability, which leads us into the second woe, which is a warning of self-security. Verse 9, Habakkuk says, "Woe to him who dishonestly makes wealth for his house, to place his nest on high, to escape the grasp of disaster." And so that phrase right there, to place his nest on high, it's like trying to build something so high so that you avoid any danger below. I think about if like you were, sometimes I like watching like nature and survival shows, but in these shows, a lot of them, what they'll do is when they are trying to build like a place to stay or like a place to sleep for the night, like their shelter, they'll build it up in the trees. Why? Because they want to avoid everything that's on the ground. They don't want water to build up. They don't want to get wet. They don't want the bugs around. So they try building a spot that's a little bit higher so that they can avoid the dangers that's below. They can avoid the things that threaten them. And that's the picture that we're getting here. It's a vivid image that you're trying to build your life higher so that nothing can threaten you, so that nothing can touch you. It's an insulation from risk. And that's what Babylon's doing. It wasn't just about having more money, but they wanted to be untouchable. And that's not far from us either. Like, we might not be building towers, but we do try to insulate ourselves from risk. We just do it differently. Like, we try to carefully build our lives around things and put our lives together in a way that feels more controlled. And listen, those things like savings accounts, like retirement funds, having insurance, those are not bad things on their own. Like, seriously, like, you should have insurance. If you don't, I have plenty of people in this church that can talk to you about that. Like, that is a good thing. It's a good thing to be wise, to plan ahead, to save money. Like, this is not a cancel your policy and trust Jesus sermon. That's not what this is. Because the Bible is not anti-wisdom. The Bible is anti-idolatry. Like, you can have all of those things and it's good, but when you start leaning on those things, like those are the things that are holding your life together, that's when you have a problem. Because underneath all of that is the mindset that if I can just get this, if I can get this much, if I can have this, if I can build this, then I'll be secure and I'll be stable. But that stability, we already know it doesn't last. We know how fragile that is. You get one phone call, one diagnosis, one layoff, one market crash, and then everything that you thought you could trust in, it gets revealed. And you see how much strength it actually has to hold your life together. Everything that you thought was solid, it starts to shake. You start to feel the instability of what you've built your life on. And God looks at Babylon, when really he looks at all of us, and he said, you built it, but it's not as secure as you actually think it is. Even the things that they trusted most, they ended up failing them. And we can read and we can take honestly, we should take encouragement, and we should take like strength and comfort from verses like Psalm 18:2, where he says, "The Lord is my rock, my fortress, my deliverer, my God, my rock where I seek my refuge, my shield and my horn and my salvation and my stronghold." Like, we can read that and we'll be like, yes, the Lord is my rock, the Lord is my shield, the Lord is my salvation. But then we struggle to live like it's true, because instead of finding our stability and our security in our Lord, we'll find it in our income, or we'll find it in our job or our family stability. And in that, it's not noticeable. Like, it's not loud, outright rebellion, but it's just a very quiet replacement. And here's the truth that we don't like, is that you can build your life or you cannot build your life high enough to escape brokenness. Like you can't insulate yourself from everything. Steve Jobs died of cancer at a pretty young age. This happens all the time. Like you can spend your whole life building things that you think are going to secure you, stabilize you, protect you. But you can't insulate yourself from the brokenness of a world. You can't organize your life well enough to eliminate uncertainty. You can't accumulate enough to guarantee your safety. Do you know why? Because you're not God. You can't control what happens in a broken world. So you might be thinking, okay, well then what am I supposed to do? Like not plan, not save, not build? No, that's not the point. All of those things are good things. But you can plan without placing your hope in the plan. Like you can save without trusting savings. You can build without worshiping what you've built. And here's the shift that we need to get. And I think that what God is trying to push through in this is that security is not found in what you build. Security is found in who you trust. Which leads us to this point. Building your life on yourself will never secure you. Because if everything that you built is built and are dependent on your ability to manage it, to hold it together, you can never have a moment of weakness. And you know your own weaknesses better than anybody. And as soon as you start to slip, you start to lose your grasp, then your whole world starts to shake. If your life depends on you holding it together, it's always going to feel like it's about to fall apart. But your life is not held together by your ability to manage it. Your life is held together by Jesus, the one who rules over it. So the first woe is about what we get. The second one is about feeling secure because of what you built. But then the third one, it presses a little deeper. Like with each one that we get a little closer to just that, like that punch in the stomach. Each one gets a little more closer to the core of who we are and starts to offend us a little more at a time. But this third one, it forces us to ask a harder question. And that's, is the life that you're building, is it worth it? Habakkuk 2:12 says, "Woe to him who builds a city with bloodshed and founds a town with injustice." So Babylon built an impressive kingdom. Like they conquered a lot, they had a lot of territory, they had a lot of resources, but underneath all of it was blood and injustice. It was people. They were being used, crushed, overlooked, discarded. All so that something great and impressive could be built. Now, we love success. We chase it, we follow it. Big numbers, big platforms, big influence. We follow people online we don't even like because they're winning, right? Like you have people on your friends list or on your Instagram or on your Twitter, if you're on social media and you're like, I don't even like this person, but I can't turn them off. But in that, when we see this success or this quote unquote winning, we never stop to ask, what did it cost to get there? Like who or what had to be sacrificed? What relationship? What compromise had to be made? Where did things get a little off? And the hard part in that is you can build a life that looks amazing. Looks amazing on the outside, but underneath, people are still getting hurt. Like you can look like you're winning and still feel empty. Check again what this verse said. It said, "Woe to him who builds a city with bloodshed." Like Babylon, they were willing to kill and to oppress the vulnerable in order to get what they wanted. And you might think, well, we've moved past that. Like we don't do that today. It still does. Like you can build something that the world celebrates, but it still grieves God. Like you think about the slumlord who gets rich by having the worst possible living conditions. Or the person who gives loans at 40% interest and trapping people in poverty. Or the family that gets neglected so that a career can be built. The business that grows, but employees are treated like expendable tools. Or the influence and platform that grows, but truth gets compromised and softened. Like, that's the warning here. Is that you can build something good, you can build something impressive, but what did it cost you? Because the lie that lies underneath that is that the end justifies the means. That if it works, it's fine. If people like it, it's good. If people are impressed, it must be right. If it grows, this is a good thing. So that forces us to ask, like, what are you building in your life? What are you trying to accomplish? What are you going for? What are you aiming at? And what's the cost? Not just the cost in dollars, but what's the cost in people? What's the cost in relationships? What's the cost in integrity, in your obedience? Because God cares not just about what you build, but he cares about how you build it. He cares about how you treated people along the way. He cares about how you got there. And if you thought that one was personal, the fourth woe goes even deeper. Because now it's not just about what you build, but it takes that how you treat people along the way one more step further, like one more step closer to the core. It's a warning of debauchery and shame. Verse 15 says, "Woe to him who gives his neighbors drink, pouring out your wrath and even making them drunk in order to look at their nakedness." Now, you might read that and have the question, is this saying that they're getting people drunk so that they can take advantage of them? That's exactly what this is saying. It's like they're putting them in positions of vulnerability intentionally so they can just use them however they want. Like that's not subtle. What God is exposing here is not subtle. That's intense language, and it's meant to be. Because it's about using someone else as a means for your own gratification. Babylon didn't just conquer people, it stripped people of their dignity. Babylon wanted to humiliate people. And so let's just name this what this is. This is about dehumanization. It's about taking someone made in the image of God and reducing them to something to be used. Reducing them to just a means of my own self-gratification, something to consume, something to satisfy and serve your desires. And this hits close to home because we live in a culture that doesn't just tolerate this, it celebrates it. We call it freedom, we call it expression, we call it autonomy, we call it whatever we want to call it in order to justify it. But underneath it all is the same pattern that we are using people for pleasure, reducing people to bodies, consuming content that strips them of their dignity, and just calling it normal. And so I want to press in carefully but clearly on this one. This shows up in what you view online. This shows up in sexual content that you consume. This shows up in the way that you flirt with boundaries, in the way that you treat others as disposable and then just discard them when they're no longer serviceable to you. It is not always aggressive. Sometimes it's casual, sometimes it's private, but it still has the same root. What can I get from this person? How can this person serve me? And in this, sin always lies about the cost. Sin will say, this will satisfy you, this will make you feel alive, this will serve you, this is harmless, there is no victim. All of those are lies. But we live in a world where you can access anything at any time. You can justify it, you can hide it, you can do it in private. No one might know, but let me tell you this, God knows. God sees it, and you didn't hear me on this. It is doing something to you. It's numbing you. It's distorting you. It trains your heart to disconnect from real love. And over time, you lose the ability to love people the way that God sees them. because you cannot reflect the heart of God towards people when you're looking at people as objects to be used. And that's what he's addressing here. And this is the tension for believers, is that you can love Jesus, but you can still drift into patterns that don't look like him. You can sing the worship songs, but you can still be discipled by a culture that just trains you to consume people. So you have to ask yourself, who is shaping my desires? Which desires am I giving into? Who am I allowing to influence the direction of my life and the things I look at and the things that I consume? Because the gospel does not just forgive sin. And it's crucial that you get this. The gospel does not just forgive sin, but the gospel retrains your heart. It helps you to correct your affections. It teaches you to see people not just as objects, but as image bearers. Not just as opportunities, but as souls, as people that Jesus died for. Jesus didn't just come to use people. He didn't come to use people at all. Jesus came to die for them, to lay down his life for them. So you don't have to just give in to patterns of shame. You don't have to live in secrecy. You don't have to live in fear that someone's going to find your browser history. You don't have to keep believing the lie that this is just how it is and this is normal. That's not freedom. But God offers real freedom, and what God calls holiness is where real freedom is found. Living surrendered to him in a life that's alignment with him, stepping with him, so you don't have to live with hidden sin and secrecy. So if you've been tracking with us in this chapter, what we see is greed says, I need more. Self-security says, I need control. Exploitation says, I'll build whatever it takes. And debauchery says, I'll use whoever I want. But then we get to the root underneath it all. Because none of those things exist on their own. They all exist with something deeper. They're symptoms. But this is the source, verses 18 and 19. What use is a carved idol after its craftsman carves it? It's only a cast image, a teacher of lies. For the one who crafts its shape trusts in it and makes worthless idols that cannot speak. Woe to him who says to wood, wake up, or to mute stone, come alive. Can it teach? Look, it may be plated with gold and silver, yet there is no breath in it at all. What this is saying is, you don't carve something, like I hope you don't anyway, go out into your wood shop at home, carve something and say, come alive, teach me something, speak, walk. Like, that doesn't work, and that's the point God's making here. He's making a mockery of it. Like, you can build something with your hands, and then you're just going to worship it? How much sense does that make? Babylon's ultimate problem was idolatry. They worshipped what they made. They took something that they created and treated that thing like it was ultimate. And God's response is blunt. It can't speak, can't walk, can't save you, can't do anything, yet you're trusting it? Here's what idolatry really is. It's not just statues, but it's anything that you are looking to for your identity, for your security, and for your meaning. And that idolatry connects to everything that we've talked about today. We chase more because we think it'll satisfy. We build security because we think it'll save us. We use people because we think that it'll fulfill us. If something can define you or undo you, it's acting like God in your life. And that thing will always disappoint. It will always overpromise and it will underdeliver. So the question is, what are you trusting right now that can't actually hold you? Because whatever that thing is, whatever that thing in your life that you're trusting, that's what you're building your life around. You don't live in a vacuum isolated from what you trust. You make your decisions based on what you trust. But here's what I want to do. I want to back up for a minute. I want to go back in Habakkuk because right now, like, you probably feel like you just got punched in the stomach, right? Like, this is just a list of you're doing it wrong. But I don't want to leave it there. I don't want to leave you without hope and just doom and gloom, because that's not what happens. Because right in the middle of all of this judgment, there's a promise. There's a massive one. It's one of my favorite verses in the Bible, Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 14. This verse, for the earth will be filled with the knowledge of the Lord's glory as the water covers the sea. Now, with everything that we've already talked about and just read, you're like, that seems very out of place. How does that fit in to this right here? In the middle of all these woes, like, that seems pretty random, but I'm going to tell you, this is there for a reason. Because what God is saying this is, in the middle of all of this brokenness, in the middle of this corruption and this violence, this injustice, all of this pride, it will not win. None of these things get the final word. He's saying there is a future coming where the earth will be filled not with greed, not with violence, not with corruption or exploitation or idolatry, but with the knowledge of the glory of God. Not partially, not occasionally, but flooded, fully, completely, unavoidable. That's the future. It's not a maybe, it's not a hopefully, but this is where things are going. That the earth will be filled with the knowledge of God. It will be filled with his glory. Every person, every language, every nation is going to know about God. Revelation tells us what this looks like. Revelation chapter 7, verse 9 says, there was a vast multitude from every nation, tribe, people, and language, which no one could number, standing before the throne. This is how it ends. People from every corner of the earth, every nation, rescued by Jesus, standing before him in worship. So the ultimate question that we're left asking is, are you building your life on that, what God says is going to happen, how all things are going to end? Are you building your life on that promise, or are you building it on something else? Because here's the good news in all of this. You don't have to build your life on something that can't hold you. Like, you don't have to build your life on something that can't save you. You don't have to hold it all together. You don't have to chase more to prove yourself. Jesus already did what you couldn't. Jesus lived the life you couldn't live. He died the death you deserve, and then he rose so that you could be forgiven. And he did all of that for you so that you could be made new and then brought into something that he is building. Turning from yourself and trusting him. That's the invitation. You can stop building your life on things that can't hold you. You can stop trusting things that can't save you. Because Jesus tells us what will happen. That the whole earth will be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord as the water covers the sea. So you can start living by faith in the one who already gave his life for you. Because in the end, there's only one life that's going to stand. And it's the one that's built on him. Let's pray.